The room without a window. I noticed the absence of the window because the light was wrong. For years, morning had arrived in my apartment before I did. Pale eastern light would slide through the narrow window beside the desk, catching dust in the air, warming the chipped mug I never moved, outlining the plant I forgot to water. It was how I measured time, not by clocks, but by where the sun fell. That morning, the room was evenly gray, not dark, not dim, just flat, as if the light had been filtered through something thick and indifferent. I remember standing there longer than necessary, waiting for the sun to finish arriving. It didn't. I turned toward the desk. The wall was smooth. No window frame, no glass, no latch, just plaster, painted the same tired off-white as the rest of the room. I touched it. The wall was cool, solid, uninterrupted. No outline, no seam, no sign that anything had ever been there. I laughed once, short, embarrassed, because there are only two reasonable explanations when something impossible happens. Either it's new, or it's you. I told myself the window must be in the other room. It wasn't. I live alone, which made the first day easier and the following ones worse. I checked the apartment listing I'd saved years ago. The floor plan showed no window in the study. I found photos from the move-in day, boxes stacked, furniture half assembled, and there it was, the same blank wall, untouched, innocent. Except I remembered leaning against that window while unpacking. I remembered pressing my forehead to the glass during phone calls I didn't want to finish. I remembered rain tapping softly when I worked late. Memory is a strange thing. It feels solid until it doesn't. By evening, the room felt smaller. Not physically. My tape measure confirmed the dimensions were unchanged, but functionally, like a thought you can't quite finish. I turned on every lamp. The light felt artificial in a way it never had before, like an imitation of something that had quietly withdrawn. That night, I dreamed of wind. On the second day, I opened the wall, not violently, not desperately, with the careful precision of someone who needs to prove something without admitting why. I peeled paint with a blade. The plaster beneath was clean, undisturbed. No bricking, no patchwork, no history. The wall had never been opened. At work, I mentioned it casually to a colleague. "You're sure there was a window?" she asked, smiling the way people do when they're being kind to something fragile. I used to sit next to it every morning. She paused. "Are you sure you're not thinking of your old place?" I said no too quickly. That night, the room felt closer, not smaller, closer, as if the walls had leaned in by an inch while I wasn't watching. I slept with the lights on. By the fourth day, the memories began to lose weight. I could still recall the window, but the details softened. The sound of traffic outside became vague. The direction of the light blurred. I struggled to remember which way it opened, or if it ever did. I wrote everything down, afraid that if I didn't, the memory would finish dissolving. There was a window here. It faced east. The mornings were warmer because of it. The sentences felt defensive, unconvincing. I stood at the wall and waited. Nothing happened. No shifting, no distortion, no revelation. That was worse. A week passed. The room adjusted to itself. My routines adopted. I stopped expecting sunlight and started relying on lamps. The plant by the desk died quietly, its leaves curling inward as if embarrassed. Sometimes in the early hours, I felt a pressure behind my eyes, as if something just outside my field of vision was trying to line up correctly. Once, half asleep, I reached out toward the wall and felt air, cold, moving. I sat up instantly. The wall was solid again. In the morning, I could no longer remember why the window mattered. The final change was subtle. I was reorganizing the shelves when I noticed my desk had shifted slightly, angled more toward the wall than before. I corrected it, aligning it carefully, the way I always had. The next morning, it was angled again, not dramatically, just enough to face the blank wall directly. I left it that way. It felt appropriate. Now, when I sit at the desk, I sometimes feel as though I'm being observed, not watched exactly, but acknowledged, as if the room is aware that I've stopped asking questions. I don't look for the window anymore. I don't remember the sound of wind clearly. But sometimes when the lamps are off and the room is quiet, I swear I can feel warmth on my face. Faint, directional, undeserved. I don't turn around, because if I do, and there's nothing there again, I'm not sure what part of me will disappear next. And if there is something there, I don't know if I wait to remember what the room used to let in.